Have you ever looked in the mirror and felt like a stranger, like you're wearing a mask that fits the world's expectations but suffocates your truth? You scroll through endless images, trends, and opinions, but somehow you still feel lost. In a world louder than ever, how did your voice get drowned out? Let me tell you something that might shake you. Confusion isn't the problem. Living in it is. This video is not just about self-help. It's a wake-up call. It's a roadmap back to the real you, the one buried under years of performance, pressure, and pretense. Because if you don't reclaim your identity, the world will rewrite it for you. And the version it creates will never satisfy you. We are living in a time where the question of who am I is louder than ever. It echoes through social media posts, lifestyle choices, fashion statements, and even in the chaos of protest and rebellion. Identity has become a commodity, bought, sold, swapped, and shaped based on trends, feelings, or fleeting experiences. But here's the core issue. When the original purpose of something is unknown, it will inevitably be misused. The same applies to people. When we don't understand our identity, we become victims of confusion, pressure, and manipulation. We start living a life that was never designed for us, pursuing things that were never meant to define us, and ending up with a version of ourselves we can't even recognize. Many young people today are facing what experts call an identity crisis. But let's break that down for a moment. An identity crisis isn't just about being unsure of what to wear, who to love, or which group to belong to. At its core, it's about losing sight of design. Original design. Think about it. If you walked into a room filled with tools and had no idea what each tool was made for, you'd probably use them incorrectly. A hammer might be mistaken for a paperweight. A wrench might become a doorstop. It's not that the tools are bad, it's that the purpose is misunderstood. Likewise, you cannot function to your fullest potential if you're not sure of what you're supposed to be doing or who you really are. We've been taught that identity is something to be created, but that's a dangerous half-truth. You don't create identity, you discover it. Just like a seed carries the DNA of what it's supposed to become, you carry the blueprint of your purpose. It's not something you invent based on your environment. It's something that is built into your nature. The reason many people are exhausted, depressed, or filled with anxiety is not because life is hard. It's because they're misaligned. They're trying to live outside of their design. And when you live outside of design, life becomes confusing. The world tells us to find ourselves, but it rarely tells us how. It offers a buffet of temporary labels: athlete, artist, influencer, rebel, introvert, genius, misfit, dreamer. But none of these are your true identity. There may be roles you play or traits you possess, but they are not your core. You are more than what you do, what you wear, what you feel, or what others say about you. Real identity is stable. It doesn't change with the seasons. It doesn't rise and fall based on social media likes, group acceptance, or even personal achievements. When you truly know who you are, you become unshakable. Here's a truth worth writing down. Identity precedes activity. What you do should flow from who you are, not the other way around. Many people are stuck in cycles of burnout, constantly performing for approval, trying to become someone worthy in the eyes of others. But the problem is not the job, the school, or the people. The problem is that they never took time to rediscover their identity. Imagine trying to run a race while wearing someone else's shoes. That's what most people are doing today, running with borrowed expectations, borrowed beliefs, and borrowed dreams. The pain you feel is not because you're not good enough. The pain is from misfit. Reclaiming your identity begins with disconnecting from noise. Silence the world for a moment. Step back from the apps, the opinions, and the pressure. Start asking yourself the real questions. What do I value? What fuels me? What breaks me? What excites me when I wake up? These questions are not about others, they're about you. You'll never discover your true self if your identity is always filtered through comparison. Just because someone else is loud doesn't mean you have to be. Just because someone else is confident doesn't mean you're failing. Originality cannot be found in imitation. The system we live in profits off your confusion. If you don't know who you are, you'll keep buying what they sell. New clothes, new labels, new definitions. But no matter how many external upgrades you make, the inner void remains if your identity is unanchored. You don't fix internal questions with external answers. That's why so many people feel empty after achieving what they thought would finally make them feel full. The degree didn't do it. The relationship didn't do it. The success didn't do it. Why? Because you can't fill a void of purpose with a checklist of accomplishments. Identity must be rooted before it can be revealed. That means it takes work. You have to do the deep digging. Peel back the layers of what others told you to be. Some people were labeled from childhood. The quiet one, the bad kid, the smart one, the problem. But those labels were shortcuts, not truths. They don't define you, they confine you. And if you never challenge them, you will spend your life trying to be what someone else imagined for you. Reclaiming your identity means challenging old definitions and daring to become your true self, even if that makes some people uncomfortable. One of the most powerful acts you can do is to say, that's not who I am anymore. Growth requires shedding. You must let go of the outdated versions of yourself, the one who needed validation, the one who chased applause, the one who played it safe to be accepted. That version of you may have helped you survive, but it can't take you into your future. There is more inside you. There is power, clarity, strength, and direction waiting to emerge. But it only comes when you stop being everyone else's version of you. So how do you reclaim your identity in a world that profits from your confusion? You start by rejecting the belief that your worth is up for debate. You are not a mistake. You are not a copy. You are not random. Everything about you, your thoughts, your ideas, your uniqueness was meant to serve a purpose. The real you is not hiding. It's buried under expectations. Dig deep, and you'll find that clarity isn't far away. But it won't come from the outside. It comes when you silence the noise and reintroduce yourself to your design. You are not what happened to you. You are not your failure. You are not your trauma. You are not the titles you wear. You are not the job you have. You are something far more powerful. A person with a unique role to play, a unique strength to offer, and a unique destiny to fulfill. The sooner you align with that truth, the more peace you'll experience. And in a confused world, peace is the first sign that you've found your true path. The most powerful thing in the world is not money, influence, or status. It's purpose. Because purpose informs identity, and identity informs decisions. When you don't know why something exists, you're bound to misuse it. That's why so many people are stuck doing things that don't align with who they are, staying in environments that shrink them, and chasing dreams that were never theirs to begin with. It all begins with a lack of original intent. What is original intent? It's the fundamental reason something was created. A chair is not a ladder. A phone is not a hammer. Each thing has a reason for existing, and so do you. You weren't designed by accident. Your personality, your ideas, your strengths, they're not random. They're evidence of design. And when you ignore that design, you experience frustration. Why? Because purpose violated becomes pain. Purpose ignored becomes confusion. You cannot find peace outside of your natural alignment. Every time you try to be someone else, you dilute your impact. You can't be authentic and imitate at the same time. Originality demands courage. It asks you to stop performing and start becoming. And in a world that rewards trends and punishes difference, this can feel like rebellion. But make no mistake, reclaiming your identity is the most revolutionary thing you can do. Because once you find it, you stop being controlled. You're no longer swayed by what's popular. You become grounded. Purpose gives you roots, and those roots make you resilient. There's a reason why people who know who they are walk differently. They move with clarity. They say no without guilt. They choose their battles wisely. They don't waste energy trying to impress. They understand that alignment is more important than applause. When you operate in your identity, you don't chase, you attract. You don't beg, you create. You don't conform, you lead. That's the power of rediscovering your intent. But let's be real. Getting there isn't easy, because reclaiming your identity also means facing the pain of disconnection. You may have to walk away from people who only like the version of you that fit their comfort zone. You might have to quit roles that paid well but drained your soul. You need to challenge beliefs you inherited without question. This process isn't for the faint-hearted, but it's necessary. Because every time you betray your true self, you shrink. And the world doesn't need a smaller version of you. It means the real you, fully expressed. To reclaim your identity, you have to start with inventory. What parts of your life feel heavy? What actions feel out of sync? What relationships feel like performances instead of partnerships? These are clues. Confusion is always a signal. Don't ignore it. It's not there to shame you. It's there to redirect you. Instead of numbing it with distractions, listen to it. What is your life trying to tell you? Where are you off track? Many people make the mistake of looking for identity in activity. I'm what I do, they say. But that's backwards. You must be before you do. Identity is the seed, action is the fruit. If you get the order wrong, you end up with performance instead of purpose. You'll measure your worth based on productivity. And when you're not achieving, you'll feel like you're failing. But the truth is, your value is not tied to how busy you are. Your worth is not a scoreboard. The danger of identity confusion is that it creates vulnerability. If you don't know who you are, someone else will define you for their benefit. Culture will label you, marketing will target you, peers will shape you, and before long, you'll be living a life that looks good on the outside, but feels empty on the inside. That's why reclaiming your identity is not a luxury, it's a survival strategy. Take a moment to reflect on the environments you're in. Are they cultivating your true self, or are they pressuring you to conform? Are you surrounded by people who celebrate your uniqueness, or do they only support the parts of you that benefit them? Remember, identity grows in the soil of truth. If you keep planting yourself in shallow places, you'll never reach depth, and depth is where transformation happens. The truth is, many of us were never taught how to discover who we are. We were taught how to fit in, follow rules, get approval, and survive. But survival is not the goal. You were made to thrive. And thriving begins when you choose alignment over acceptance. You stop asking, what do they want me to be? And start asking, who was I always meant to be? And this shift is uncomfortable because it requires unlearning. Unlearning what you were told success means. Unlearning how you were conditioned to see yourself. Unlearning the belief that worth is external. But unlearning is powerful because it makes space for truth. And truth, when fully embraced, sets you free to live without apology. There's a version of you waiting to be revealed. One that's not limited by fear, not defined by failure, and not shaped by culture. That version is clear, it's bold, it's intentional, and it's already within you. You don't need to create it. You need to remove what's hiding it. When you reclaim your identity, you stop being a mirror of others and become a reflection of your purpose. And in a world that's confused, your clarity becomes your greatest contribution. This journey requires solitude, not isolation, but intentional space to reconnect with yourself. Schedule time to unplug, journal, walk, think, reflect, not because it's trendy, but because your future depends on it. If you don't make time to define yourself, the world will do it for you. And the version it creates will never satisfy you because it wasn't born from your truth. Let me say it plainly. You are not a brand, you are a being. You are not here to be consumed, you are here to contribute. Your uniqueness is not a liability, it's your advantage. Stop hiding it. Stop editing yourself to fit broken systems. Stop playing small to avoid rejection. Rejection is not the enemy, reduction is. When you reduce yourself to be accepted, you lose the very thing that makes you valuable. Reclaiming your identity is not just about you. It's about everyone you were born to impact. When you live in alignment, you give others permission to do the same. You break the cycle. You become a mirror of authenticity in a world full of masks. And that, my friend, is leadership. Not position, not popularity, but the courage to be fully, unapologetically you. In a world that changes by the minute, trends, opinions, expectations, definitions, it's tempting to mold yourself to whatever is most acceptable in the moment. But here's a harsh truth. If you change who you are to fit into every room, you will eventually forget who you were before you entered them. That's the cost of compromise. And while it might feel safe in the short term, it's lethal in the long term, because you end up successful on the outside and empty on the inside. Reclaiming your identity means building an internal compass that doesn't sway with the wind. It means getting so clear on who you are that confusion no longer shakes you. You don't need to convince the world, you need to convince yourself. Because when you're convinced, you don't beg for validation, you walk with presence, you speak with conviction, and you live with alignment. This is not arrogance, it's authenticity. Confusion often disguises itself as open-mindedness, but being open to everything and anchored to nothing is a dangerous place to live. Identity gives you boundaries. It tells you what to say yes to, and more importantly, what to say no to. Without it, you'll agree to things that drain you. You'll engage with people who break you. You'll walk down paths that don't lead to you. But when identity is reclaimed, decisions become easier. Peace becomes normal. And your future becomes clearer. Here's the most liberating truth. You have permission to evolve. Identity is not a fixed costume, it's a framework. It holds your values, your essence, your design. But within that, you can grow, adapt, and expand. You don't have to be the person others remember. You're allowed to become more. In fact, your identity demands growth. Stagnation is not stability, it's slow death. Reclaiming your identity is also about reclaiming your right to change in ways that align with your purpose. One of the biggest reasons people stay confused is because they fear disappointing others. They fear being misunderstood, misrepresented, or even rejected. But here's a truth to hold on to. Clarity will always offend confusion. When you know who you are, people who benefit from your confusion may resist your clarity. But that's not your problem. You were not born to be understood. You were born to be aligned. Stop shrinking to make others comfortable. Stop bending your identity to fit in boxes you've outgrown. If people only love the version of you that agrees with them, you're not in a relationship, you're in a performance. And performances always end with exhaustion. Identity, on the other hand, brings peace. Because peace is not the absence of conflict, it's the presence of truth. And when you live in truth, even your solitude is empowering. Let's talk about legacy. Reclaiming your identity is not just for the present, it's for the future. Every decision you make today based on who you truly are builds a legacy of clarity. Imagine a world where people are not trying to copy each other, but where they're living their truth fully. That world begins with you. When you walk in purpose, you inspire others to stop performing and start becoming. Think about the people who impacted you the most. Chances are they weren't perfect, but they were authentic, they were real, they were grounded. That's the power of identity. It transcends talent. It outweighs charm. It lasts longer than trends. Talent may open doors, but identity determines how long you stay in the room. Because when the pressure rises and the lights dim, only a clear identity can keep you standing. Reclaiming your identity also demands emotional maturity. You must stop reacting to every opinion, every trend, every label. You need to pause, reflect, and respond from a place of awareness. Not everything deserves your energy. Not every argument needs your input. When you're rooted in your identity, you learn to preserve your power. And in a distracted world, focus is your superpower. You also need to understand this. Your identity is not defined by your past. Mistakes, failures, and regrets do not get the final say. Those are chapters, not your whole story. The human spirit was built for restoration. You can rise, you can rebuild, you can realign. What matters is not where you've been, but where you're headed. And where you're headed becomes clearer when you take ownership of who you are right now. Let go of shame. Let go of perfectionism. Let go of comparison. These things keep you small. And you were never meant to live small. Every part of you was built for contribution, not containment. You were not designed to merely exist. You were designed to influence. And you can't influence authentically without reclaiming your identity. Take time today to reintroduce yourself to yourself. Strip away the layers of what you were told to be, quiet the voices of criticism and approval. Ask yourself, what am I here to give? What strengths come naturally to me? What environment makes me come alive? What habits align with who I want to become? Your answers won't come overnight, but they will come. And when they do, protect them. Because clarity must be guarded. Identity must be defended. You're not behind. You're not too late. You're not broken. You're in process. And process is powerful. Every moment of confusion, every time you questioned your path, every pivot you've made, it's all part of the journey back to yourself. And that journey is worth taking. Because the real you, the unfiltered, untamed, undeniable you, is the version the world needs most. So what now? Make a decision. Not a dramatic one, but a consistent one. Decide to live in alignment. Decide to question everything that doesn't feel true. Decide to stop performing and start becoming. The path to reclaiming your identity is not straight, it's layered. But every step brings you closer to peace, power, and purpose. In a confused world, identity is the anchor. When everything else shifts, identity holds you still, not stuck, but stable. That's the gift of rediscovery. You may not control what the world throws at you, but you can always control how you respond when you know who you are. And once you reclaim your identity, no storm, no opinion, no failure, and no fear will ever have the power to define you again.